Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Becky, and I'm going to talk to you about my journey in the world of research. I'm going to just go like the whole, just from the very beginning, the idea that I had and how it actually became what it did. I definitely need to caveat that I am like not a research person, not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't have any fancy degrees. I'm definitely not going to do any. And so, you know, I'm just a small time girl in, you know, making my own way in a research world. So maybe this is going to be a bit basic, but this is what I did. I don't really like all of this Zooming. This is me. I am a consultant at UCLH. I was appointed about a year ago, but I grew up anaesthetic-wise in East London. So my excuse is, in East London, we're too busy like doing actual work, and like there isn't just research happening everywhere. Like at UCLH, it's so fancy, and so it was more complicated for me to do this. That's my excuse. Also, in real life, this is what I look like right now. So if I sound fat and grumpy, it's because I definitely am. So I'm going to cast your mind back to August 2017, which is when this story begins. And I was trying to find anything interesting that happened in August 2017. And basically nothing did, apart from obviously COVID didn't exist. We were like living our lives, going outside, and it was amazing. It was post-Brexit, but still, it was a hell of a lot better than it is now. And I had an educational supervisor meeting, and they said, oh, how is your back page? And I actually cried real tears that came from my face. And the meeting was not with a very sympathetic person, and it was extremely embarrassing. And so I was sent on my merry way with the instruction to like sort my life out. And I was like, okay, I need to do a poster. I need a poster for sure. And I was thinking, and I was looking at all the patients, and I just thought, all the patients are fat. I swear people are just more and more obese. And it seemed, you know, there was a list. There wasn't a normal BMI patient on the list. And you know, there was some sort of relatively hairy moments. And I thought, this is something. It's not like a sexy thing, but you know, I think that obesity is quite important. And so I was thinking I could do a project about that. And even though this was 2017, people were still, you know, banging on about NAP4 constantly. Obviously, NAP4 is important, but it just, I don't know, it felt like people constantly spoke about it. And I thought, I wonder what NAP4 says about obesity. So I read it a bit more, and it said that obese patients were twice as likely as the general population to be submitted in their case reports. And it said too often obesity was not identified as a risk factor for airway difficulty, and the anaesthetic technique was not modified. And I thought, that's interesting, because I feel like in my observation, they're not modified. And I actually found that obesity was mentioned 362 times in NAP4. I thought, I'm definitely onto something with this. And then there was this other document produced by the AAGBI and SOBA in 2050, which gave like loads of like really nice recommendations about how to safely anaesthetize obese patients. So NAP4 made all of these recommendations. That document came up with a whole load of equipment that you should have. And I thought, fine, like people have spent loads of time writing these documents. I wonder whether anyone's ever read them or it like does what they say. And then there was a really, there was an impact study of NAP4 done, but because partly NAP4 was so massive and partly because people don't care about obese patients, the impact on the obesity specific recommendations was just not addressed in this. And I was like, this is it. I am definitely going to get a poster out of this. I just do a project about obesity and it's going to be awesome. But I didn't know anything about anything. So I didn't really know how to do that. And then I was at post-fellowship teaching, and someone was talking about plan. So you probably already know what plan is, but I did not. And so PLAN is the Pan London Audit and Research Network, which is like a very awesome organisation. So then there's like a central committee with actual proper people who know lots of things about research. And then each area of London has a lead. And basically they adopt projects, they roll them out in their areas in multiple hospitals, and then they help with the running and analysing the results. They've got quite a good system, which is that obviously you need to have an audit each year for your ARCP. So it's agreed that if you take part in a plan project, that counts as your audit. So it means that people are quite keen to get involved because they don't have to think of a project, they just can collect some data and that's ticked off. And the other thing is that the projects are quite frequently published, and if you do contribute to the project, you're listed as a contributor on the publication. So it's just like win-win-win for absolutely everyone. And you might not be London-based, but there's actually loads of these things all over the country. This is RAFT, so these are all the trainee anaesthetic research networks, and they've all got pretty snazzy names. And so sometimes you could run a project locally in your research network, and then RAFT would take it up, and then it would run in all of these places. And that's happened with a few plan projects. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll give this plan thing a go. And if you go on the website, it tells you how to, what they want for a project proposal. And it didn't seem that arduous. I only had to write 300 words. But I asked someone and they said that this thing at the bottom, have you piloted the project locally, was important. Now, because this was just this idea that I'd had after my disastrous educational supervisor meeting, I had not piloted anything at all. So I'm a big fan of faking it until you make it. And I'm not saying that I lied, because I definitely didn't lie, but I just wrote about something else. And then I took the learning points that I had inferred from that, and then I said that was my pilot. So I'm just saying, don't be put off if you haven't done a pilot. I think a pilot would have been useful, but I hadn't done one, and I just wrote about something else. And I submitted it. It wasn't too long. It was fine. I could manage that. And then I waited to hear back. So the project was shortlisted, and the next stage was that you had to pitch your idea at the Plan AGM at Senate House, and then the next project selection would be decided by audience vote. And I was like, that is important, audience vote. So I had a look at the previous projects that had been successful. So these were plan projects, you might have been part of them. And I thought, it looks like the logo is very important. And so then I basically spent 99% of the time preparing for my pitch, designing a logo. And, I wanted it to say, I'm the next Pan London Anaesthetic Research Project. I also wanted it to be cool. And I wanted, I wanted a good logo. And then it came to me in the middle of the night. This was what I came up with. So I called my project BIGAA, which is Bariatric Issues in General Anaesthesia Relating to Airway. Lots of people tried to call it Big AA, and I was like, no, I am from East London. It is BIGAA. And then when I went to get it printed, I tried to use a student discount, and they wouldn't honor it because they said that it was clearly a business. And I was like, yes, it's not. I just came up with it. And so I was also like, this is an audience vote. people are basic, people like gimmicks, especially doctors. We never get anything nice. So this was September 2017. So then I made some swag for the audience. I had these nice little wedding invitation booklets where they had the like strips that they pulled off that said this could be the start of something bigger. I made stickers, I made cakes. You can have anything printed on rice paper. And it went well, and the project was chosen. And, you know, I lived off those 12 retweets and 18 likes for some time. And then I realized I had to make a research project. So the idea that I had was that I would survey each hospital to see what bariatric equipment they had available. And then I would ask them some questions about every single elective operation that they did in order to get a bit more information, a snapshot of what was happening day in, day out in London hospitals. And I was basically, the questions I was answering were, what proportion of elective surgery is carried out in obese patients? Because in my mind, it was a lot. Are the anaesthetics being modified? And are they even able to be modified? So are the equipment, is it freely available? And are the modifications actually leading to a reduction in airway problems, as sort of NAP4 kind of implied that they would? So I was like, right, I can't do it on my own. So I just asked some people that were standing close to me at the time whether they wanted to be involved, which they did. What I did fail to ever get was any sort of actual supervisor. Not really through lack of trying, but no one really was interested in it. But so we didn't have. This was it basically. I was SP5 at the time, and we had the plan committee, who were incredibly helpful, but otherwise we didn't have anyone else. I was introduced to this guy who's John Cousins, who is the chairman of SOBER. It was suggested by Plan to speak to him, and he's like a really awesome, nice guy. And SOBER kindly agreed to endorse the project. They gave me some money, and they were also like super enthusiastic and helpful. So now I had this Plan project that was also endorsed by the National Society for Bariatric Anaesthesia. So I was like, this is going all right. I made a website you can just buy, you know, like I just bought BIGAA.co.uk. It cost me $9. And then I made this website using like the Google, you know, wizard. And as you can see, I'm not that savvy, but I could do that. And, you know, you've got to have a Twitter. And so the Plan was responsible for recruiting the sites, and then they would recruit like a lead trainee at the site, and then they would sort themselves out at each site to do the actual data collection. But I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to take part. So on the website, I've just tried to make every imaginable document that they would ever need practically to run it, posters. They had to apply for a clinical governance approval at each site. I just made a copy and paste document. So, you know, so it was like, because I needed their help. So I really wanted to make it as smooth as possible, that they had to do it as little work to get involved in BIGAA. And so the data collection was decided to take place in March 2018. So the project was selected in September, so it is quite a long time. Apart from it really didn't feel like any time, and it was a lot of work during that time. Also, I'm not like always pregnant, but I was pregnant then as well, and that was like the day of the data collection, and that was actually quite hard work because I had the baby the following week. But you know, that's the way we did it. But that was just another thing for me to contend with. So BIGAA actually ran in 39 hospitals in the end, with 160 contributors, and we collected almost 2,000 cases. And something that I'm always massively impressed by is that we captured 91% of the eligible elective cases that week, which, I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be so high, but it's really awesome. And I think it's therefore like a true reflection of what really happened that week. We collected the data with REDCap, which REDCap isn't free, so Sober paid for that. It cost about £400, and Plan helped me get like a REDCap server, but then you have to make the actual form yourself. And then I forgot to close it for ages, and I had to pay. It was a mess, but yeah, REDCap you have to pay for, and it's quite a lot. And then we had like an insane amount of data. Like, we were so happy that we'd gotten 2,000 cases, but there were a lot of metrics per case that we measured. And so I was feeling very overwhelmed with the amount of data. So we spoke to Sober, and they recommended this amazing man called John Jeans, who's an anaesthetist. And he works for this company that's used to handling massive, massive data sources. And so they put the data into this program that is called Tableau. And then this is just a static slide, but you can basically, if you see on the left hand, you can do the most amazing analyses in like 1 second. And we asked for what we wanted these tabs to be, but it was like a real life-changing thing. And we decided that we didn't pay for this at all. And I think they spent quite a lot of time on it, but we just gave them some authorship. And I think that's one of the decisions that you have to make, of whether you want to pay for something or whether someone will accept some glory. As I couldn't have done it without them, and I didn't have any money. So, and as long as my name's on a poster, I wasn't really bothered. But this really was a real game changer for us. So what did we actually find? So we found that 32% of the elective population are obese, and about another 32% of them are overweight. So 2/3 of the people that we see for elective surgery are overweight or obese, and that's definitely what it seems like. We found that complications occurred much more in recovery, which was the same as what was found in NAT4. And I had maybe thought that if you were very, very fat, that people identified that and were very, very careful, and therefore there weren't that many complications. And it was I thought, so obesity class 3 is BMI of over 40. So I thought maybe there would be a spike with people with just moderate obesity, where, you chanced it on an LMA or whatever. But actually we found no, it was an exponential increase in complications as BMI increased. This is, what it looked like, which surprised me. And also, I thought that everyone would be intubated over a BMI of 40. So these are like total numbers. These aren't very good graphs, sorry. But the orange is the proportion of people who were anaesthetized with an LMA. So it's still quite a lot of BMIs over 40. In the Sober guidelines, they give some sort of some really like clear, this is what we recommend with high BMI patients. So they say everyone should be anaesthetized on the operating table in theatre in a ramp position with some oxygen. You should intubate them all, and then you should reverse them. And basically that doesn't happen hardly at all. And this is for obesity, so anyone with a BMI of over 30, but only half of them are intubated in total. I don't know how they're not all pre-oxygenated, but like, people are just doing what they want out there. So apparently 6% don't receive any oxygen at all. So just we obviously found like loads of data, but in the most these were sort of the basic things that we found. So the original question, so 32% of the elective population were obese. The anaesthetics are not being modified at all. And we've also found loads of people didn't have the equipment to do so. And that the complication rate, these are any complications, is 20% of all anaesthetics in BMI of over 40. So I learned a lot in my project. One of the things was that I asked for a lot of advice, but I also received a lot of unsolicited advice, which is fine. And basically, I just decided it was my project and I was going to do what I wanted. Like, there were loads of suggestions like, oh, you should really record this, and you should, and I was like, I'm just not going to do those things. Thanks very much. You obviously, you know, I really am a novice at this. So, you know, I was polite and I listened, but if you do run something like this, you will receive crazy amounts of advice. So just, I would be flexible, you know, when it was a good idea or I thought it was a good idea, I changed something, but I definitely didn't change everything. I was shocked at the amount that I was contacted constantly by everyone, particularly in the recruitment of the sites phase, but definitely in the data collection time. Obviously, I could not have done the project without the support of about 1 billion people. So you had to be available, but you had to be very, very available. And I tried to mitigate that with some of the information on the website, but that's fine. The other thing afterwards, people really want a certificate. They're like, you know, everyone loves a certificate. You have to get those babies out like immediately. And then you get an email saying, actually, there was another 6 people at this hospital that collected data. And I was like, whatever, yeah, you know, just have the Word document, do it yourself. I probably underestimated the amount of work in general that the project was going to be, especially because it was like my idea and I had this, you know, I had expectations of what was going to happen, and the buck really stopped with me, but it has been a lot of work, definitely worth it, but it has taken up a lot of time. And you know, I did have a baby in the middle of it. I had to go and present the data, and I basically just strapped her to me. And you know, yeah, you can do all of that stuff, definitely, and you shouldn't feel like that you can't do it. But there were times when I was like, I don't know whether this is really the right thing for all of us or for my mental health. But, you know, you definitely can go and present at a conference with a baby strapped to you. And if you want to do that, then go and do it. I actually got more than one poster. So I got 8. I got 5 presentations, 2 of them international. I got 6 prizes and grants. We became very friendly with SOBA. So this is that single sheet guideline, which if you don't know, which it's awesome, and it's very practical and helpful. So we changed some of the guidelines based on our data. And then coming up to as recently as September of this year, considering how long this has been going on for, it has been accepted for publication in Anaesthesia, pending 7 pages of corrections, which I'm working my way through with the help of the others. But, you know, great. Really pleased with that. And I'm really pleased because, you know, that will have Plan's name, it will have all those contributors, so everybody gets something out of it. It's been a long journey, but I'm pleased that it's got to this. So, you know, it started off being worried about my back page, and I don't worry about that anymore. BIGAA is considered the gold standard in plan projects now, and I've been contacted by a lot of people planning and executing their projects, and I very much welcome those calls. I'm now on the SOBA committee, so I'm the person that decides whether or not we support projects. I always support everything. And I'm a consultant bariatric anaesthetist at UCLH. So yeah, BIGAA worked out pretty well in the end. You know, if you're thinking of running a project and I can help you, definitely do email me. That's the end.